Good evening, everybody. I'm going to talk about Karmelo Anthony, like so many other people. Funny how I see mostly white people talking about this case. Not necessarily in a bad or a good way, but they're just talking about it. I don't see a lot of black people other than Brandon Tatum talking about it. Now, I've seen stuff here on, I've seen stuff on Twitter, I've seen stuff on Facebook, I've seen stuff on Threads, and on Instagram. And it's mostly black folks. Oh, he was innocent. Oh, we can't get justice in this country. Look, you did get justice, okay? He got 35 years for stabbing someone to death. Okay, Karmelo Anthony got 35 years for stabbing someone to death. And on top of that, he's being allowed to immediately appeal. Now, he's going to a Texas prison while his appeal process goes through, but what are the chances of him getting that appeal granted? Pretty high, probably. And then what they're going to do is that they'll probably have a trial or show some other evidence or something all over again and keep dragging this the fuck out forever. Yeah, he's still going to sit in fucking jail. Sit in prison anyway, so what are they going to do? This is insanity on top of insanity as far as I'm concerned. Now, I'm sure what everybody wants to know is, what all has been going on and everything else, and what are black folks' reaction to this? Okay, first of all, let's dispel some rumors. Karmelo Anthony does not have a public defender. He originally had two lawyers, let me see what their names were, Billy Clark and Kim Cole. After the funeral of the victim, Anton, why am I drawing a blank on this? Austin Metcalf. After the day after he was buried, the defense team of these two handed off everything to a guy by the name of Mike Howard, who has been a public defender. Don't get me wrong. He was a public defender. But he also had his own law firm and stuff like that. He's a decent guy, apparently. So he was being paid, supposedly. Now, with this most recent case, with this appeal, they actually asked for a pauper's consideration, which means he's broke. We can't afford the fees to do an appeal and everything else. So could you give us some leeway? I'm going to continue working pro bono on the case as well. So this raises another question. And that question that's being raised is, well, wait a minute. Where the hell did all the $637,000? Yeah, $637,000 go. Now, supposedly there's all these claims that the family went on about new cars, had to relocate to a different place due to death threats, had to have security, clothes, all this stuff. And that's going to cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So maybe if they actually did that, so then how are they affording to pay for the lawyer? Maybe they're not. Maybe they were able to pay for him up until the day of the case. Now, also, the jury, for those of you wondering, hearing about rumors about the jury had no blacks on it. Had people of color, but no blacks on it. So, like 6 whites, 5 Hispanics, and 1 Asian. That's what I most recently heard. All of the black people were taken off of the jury because they were all asked similar questions. Do you think you could judge this case fairly? No. They all answered no. Oh, I couldn't put a black man in jail. I'm not sorry. If they cannot be fair and impartial as a juror for a capital murder case because of the color of Karmelo Anthony's skin happens to be theirs as well, then yeah, they don't need to be on the jury. They don't need to be on the fucking jury. Excuse me for a moment, I have a little dog down here at my feet who wants to lay up against my feet while she scratches herself. Okay, so she's done with that, thankfully. I see the summit of her communication skills right there. You wouldn't put that person on the jury. Just like if you had a white person on there who was saying, well, look, yeah, I'm down to convict the Negro, you know, especially if he looked like he murdered somebody. If somebody stood up there and said that, then you want him off the jury too. You will want him off the jury. So the jurors that were chosen by the defense and the prosecution. They both sat up there. There wasn't some room over here for one set of people and room over here for another set of people. Both defense and prosecution were sitting up there, standing up there in the court, looking over these people and asking them questions. And they both agreed, yeah, these people need to be taken out. Now, what has been the problem with this case? The problem has been with this case is you have a clear-cut case of one person murdering another. Karmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf with a 4-inch blade. A lot of people are, 4 inches, that doesn't seem like much. You want to get stabbed with 4 inches of lead or steel? Be my guest. I prefer not to be. Of course, Metcalf died at the scene in his twin brother's arms. And since then, they have made this case into a black boy stabbed a white boy. It had to be in self-defense. There's no way this black person would have just randomly stabbed a white person for no reason. It had to be in self-defense. And even if it wasn't, we're going to keep looking for it until we find self-defense. All the evidence in trial pointed to a Metcalf being stabbed for no good reason. There was not enough justification. And they came up with some whoppers. The defense came up with some whoppers only to have their own witnesses refute what they said. One of them was Metcalf put his hands fiercely on Karmelo Anthony. And that caused Anthony to fear for his life. Even if that happened, witnesses state after him putting a hand on Anthony and he backed up from one another. Anthony goes rummaging through his book bag, pulls out the knife, and then stabs Metcalf. Okay, that's not self-defense. Also, Anthony had been sitting under that tent for 6 to 7 minutes and had been told by at least 5 different people, you're not part of this school, you're not part of the track team, you need to leave. And every time somebody got close to him and said, hey, look, you need to leave, he threatens them with, touch me and see what happens. Already clutching the knife in his book bag. He went there to cause trouble. He went there to get in a knife fight with somebody. Plain and simple. Now, if this had been a quote-unquote grown man, no matter what his skin color is, he would have got 50 years. This boy got 35. And he's probably going to get probation or parole after a certain number of years, maybe 25. So he's going to get out in 25 years. Maybe. Now, his life is pretty much ruined. Ain't no way he can go. You might be able to get a shitty job somewhere. But the reality of it is that he ruined his own life. He was out there looking for a fight, gunning and knifing for a fight, and he found one. Stabbed a guy who had done nothing to him, hadn't threatened him. He had been up there threatening the entire time. Other witnesses for the defense, who were supposed to come up there and make Karmelo Anthony look good, tell a woeful tale of a well-known school bully who got in fights repeatedly throughout his time there at the school, was disrespectful to teachers, to his coaches, to anybody, and generally was just disliked at the school. And the school where the stabbing incident happened is not his school. I don't even think his track team was actually running that day. If they were, he wasn't there to be running. So this young man went over to basically an enemy encampment, so to speak. Let's use military terms. Stabbed somebody. And then I said, well, why are you guys persecuting me? I have a right to stab somebody whenever I wish to. So now, what does the public's beef seem to be? Well, the public's beef is pretty damn small. They don't give a damn. This case has been out of the public limelight now for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. Only people who seem to really be mentioning it over the last near 2 years is online people like myself. Media didn't give a damn. And you know why they didn't give a damn? Because they already knew what the deal was. Karmelo Anthony was guilty. And they knew it. So that didn't fit the narrative, which is, poor innocent black boy had to fight for his life against a big, mean old white man. Nope, that didn't happen. It was two 17-year-olds getting in a fight, and one stabbed the other for no justifiable reason. That's all it is. That is all it is. So what are the reactions of black folks? Well, outside of the Karmelo Anthony, of the courthouse where the case was happening, the media tries to finagle and shenanigan the camera, make it look like there's hundreds of people out there. There's only 50 or 60 black folks mostly. About 10 or 12 white folks out there arguing against. And all the black folks are like, oh, a bunch of murderers. Oh, the white folks, they always want to murder us and get away with it. What does that have to do with Karmelo Anthony? Somebody points out, every time you have some black woman coming up there talking about, what about this, what about that, murder, racism, what does that have to do with him stabbing somebody? Karmelo Anthony stabbed somebody. That doesn't matter, he's one of us. Yeah, and he stabbed another innocent human being. Why should he get off the hook? Well, all the things you white folks have done. What does that have to do with what Karmelo Anthony did? Well, y'all are racist. Y'all don't want to hear us. We are hearing you. We're asking you questions. You just don't like what the answer is. Now on Threads, which is the Facebook equivalent of Twitter, I guess you could call it that. Seen a number of black people posting pictures. Oh, how could y'all put this young man away for 35 years? 35 years of his life, he's going to be totally destroyed. And everybody comes right in and just, oh, it's mostly white folks. I see a few black folks in there. But it's mostly white folks just coming straight out and saying, look, this kid murdered somebody. Why are you bringing race into it? He murdered somebody. Would you have this much concern if Karmelo Anthony had stabbed somebody who was black or Hispanic and got 35 years for it? Would you even care? The only reason you care is because Karmelo Anthony is black and Austin Metcalf is white. That's it. Now, Karmelo Anthony's family is not poor. They are middle class. Contrary to popular opinion, they are middle class. They had a nice home and everything else. Now, nobody knows why their oldest son is so fucked up in the damn head. I don't know what to tell you. But the boy got a history. So somebody wasn't disciplining him at home. Okay? Me personally, how I feel on it. Karmelo Anthony doesn't live in my state. I'm now going to, he doesn't live in my state, so my tax dollars technically ain't going to keep him in jail. But I feel like this takes up a lot of time with a small number of people in America. And now, in less than 6 months, everybody's going to forget about this boy. We'll move on to the next stabbing victim or whatever else bullshit they come up with. The media is not going to talk about this in less than a week. They're not going to talk about this unless we get the appeal and something major happens with the appeal. Me personally, I just don't care about this boy. I'm glad he's in jail. He killed somebody. He needs to be in jail. There is not enough self-defense justification for this. There just isn't. And I've tried to look for it. I can't find any. All the evidence that I've read, all the witness statements state the same thing. Austin Metcalf did nothing physically enough for Karmelo Anthony to feel threatened enough to pull out a knife, walk a few feet, and stab Austin Metcalf in the chest. Man had to walk a few feet to do this. Austin Metcalf, witness statements all say the same thing. Austin Metcalf said, I'm not getting in a fight with you over a track meet. So Austin Metcalf was constantly de-escalating the situation, while Karmelo Anthony was escalating the situation constantly, over and over and over again, trying to start a fight, hoping somebody would touch him, and then he would have some type of justification for stabbing somebody. Hey, it may be Texas, but there ain't that much justification in Texas, brother. Now, if people want to make this out to be a black and a white thing, they're trying to make money off of it, or they're trying to soothe whatever deranged butthurt they have inside their damn little minds. I don't understand it myself. I'm trying to figure that one out myself. I'm like, what is this butthurt that you guys have got? That you're desperate to get Karmelo Anthony off the hook. The only thing I can find is that you're still going by the 400 years of oppression bullshit. Or 60 years of Jim Crow, or 100 years of Jim Crow, whatever that bullshit is. Look, let that go. Alright? Maybe your ancestors were slaves. Maybe one of your family members back in history got hung under the Jim Crow laws or lynched or whatever. But that didn't happen to you. Getting Karmelo Anthony off the hook ain't gonna bring one brother slain by a white man back. So just, do it like Elsa. Let it go. Stop bringing race into it and bring the facts. What are the facts? Karmelo Anthony stabbed an innocent boy and the boy died. If you just take that, if I didn't tell you that Karmelo Anthony was black and Austin Metcalf was white, and I told you all the other information save for the race, what would you then say? You know what you'd say. Karmelo Anthony needs to be in jail, or he needs to be executed for murder. That's it. Okay? Now, the appeals process is going to happen. Okay, fine. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's not worth the spiritual and emotional and mental drain. For all these black folks sitting out here, and some of them are decent folks, they just got this chip on their shoulder about white folks. And this is their way of expressing that chip on their shoulder. Let them have it. They're not going to get Karmelo Anthony out of jail. Nobody is. That boy is done. Okay? So all you black folks out there, cry harder. Your salty tears are delicious. Okay? This is not worth the fight. The boy is a murderer. If you somehow manage to get him off of the hook just for him being black, the next person he stabbed, then what are you going to do? But if he stabs a black person, well, okay, now we got to really put you in jail. You stabbed one of your own. Really? Look, let me go ahead and go, because this video is coming up on 20 minutes. And there's really not much else to say. Me personally, like I said, I'm glad he got convicted. He needs to go to jail. I feel no pity for him. I feel bad for his family a little bit, because they raised a little monster, and now it's coming back to bite them in the butt too. Although I get the sneaky suspicion that most of that money, they spent it on themselves because they already knew he was guilty. So they're like, well, we're just going to spend this money to get ourselves a nice house and some nice cars and some nice clothes, and then, we'll pay for another lawyer, and then he's fucked. Just plain straight out, he's fucked. What else can you do when you got a person like that? Nothing else you can do, man. Well, let's pray for everybody. That's one thing I think we can all agree on. I think we can all agree on that. Some of you are atheists, you don't pray. But you get what I'm saying. I think we can all pray for the families. Because one family lost their son, And another family is about to see their son go off to jail for the next 35 years. Whereupon in said jail, or prison I should say, ooh, sweet meat, that poor boy. I don't wish that on him. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. At some point, it's gonna happen. Alright, folks, let me get on up out of here. Y'all take care. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.